Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etba'ihi ve sellem. Selamu aleyküm ve rahmetullah. Inshallah, today we will read an interpretation of Surah Al-Fatiha. And it's going to be from the 15th ray. The name of the book is The Rays. We will be going through the 15th ray, first station, part 2. So this is going to be an interpretation of Surah Al-Fatiha. And as a brief note, this is probably not the first time, but generally we don't read from the rays. But that specific text, the 15th ray, is one of the latest writings of Imam Nursi. So inshallah, maybe we'll see some differences here and there, but it is, I would say, a more comprehensive writing in his life. More so, it is like a summary of his journey. So that's why Surah Al-Fatiha in this regard is giving us a very comprehensive perspective on his writings. So let's see who is going to read for us. And we can start from the beginning and read the first phrase up until the second phrase.
I can start with the small paragraph before the first paragraph.
Yeah, you can start all the way from a brief summary of Surah Al-Fatiha. Start from there.
Part 2 of the only lesson I gave after having been transferred temporarily from solitary confinement in the third school of Joseph to the company of others. This is a short sample of the lessons given to the Italian students and friends. While reciting Surah Fateha during the prayers, it commanded me to expound one drop from its ocean in a single flash of the 7 colors in the light of it. For sure, we have written some very sweet and incredible points with sacred privilege in part of the 29th letter, particularly in the journey of imagination taken in the noon of Na'ruz and the 8 symbols, Rumuzun Simaniya, and the Quranic commentary, Signs of Miraculousness, and in other parts of the Psalm. But I felt obliged to write down my reflection during the prayers, but only the allusions to the pillars of belief and their fruits from that very sweet Quranic summary, in the form of a concise extract in the manner of part 1 above. So referring the praise in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, to 2 or 3 treatises of the Risale-e-Nur, I am starting from all praise be to God. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, all praise be to the God, sustainer of all the world, merciful, the compassionate. Honor of the day of judgment, you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have blessed, not those who have received your anger, nor those whom have gone astray. First phrase, all praise be to God. A very brief allusion to the proof of the truths of belief in this phrase. Filling the face of the earth and the universe are intentional bestowals and bounties, which are the fall of praise and thanks, especially the sending of pure, clean, and precious love to infants from between blood and excrement. So too are their purposeful gifts and presents, and kindly benefactions and peace. The purpose of these is to say, in the name of God, the Father, and all praise be to God at the end. In the middle, to perceive the bestowal of the bounty, and through it, to recognize your sustainer. Consider your own self, your stomach, and your senses. How many things and bounties they need. See how many foods and delights they want for the price of praise and thanks. Then compare all living creatures with yourself. Thus the endless praise offered verbally and terms of disposition in response to these general results. So as early as the sun, the existence and universal dominicanity of one who is worshipped and praised, and all compassionate bestowed of bounties. Second point.
We can pause here. So this is for Surah Al-Fatiha. Author is referring to other parts, such as the first word when it comes to Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So he didn't touch upon it here. But starting from Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Because Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. So we will study that. So for Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, here is what he understood from that. Just Alhamdulillah. Okay. Yeah. Right. So any comments so far, if you would like to add? We can give a few minutes if you would like to reread it by yourself. Yeah. So the example in here that he gives is he is starting from something personal that we can experience. I guess like people in this room, we just pray together, so everybody is Muslim. And if we say who is praiseworthy, God is praiseworthy, like it's like a memorized answer for us. But how can we say this word by thoroughly feeling it? And how does author's example help? Or if there's some other example that's more familiar to you, what would it be? And by this, what I mean is by feeling it, if I say, I don't know, since I am seeing Ahmed, Ahmed, who is Pakistan's president right now, what's his name? That guy. Oh, yeah. And let's assume we have some sort of a like positive opinion about the God. This guy, probably not. Or maybe Atik is here. I can also ask to Atik. Atik, do you like Trump? And he would say, oh yeah, of course. Like I like the guy. Let's assume. But if I say, do you love your mom? Like now the meaning of the word changes, the intensity of the word changes because you have a history and that's so near to you, so relatable to you. So when it comes to saying the phrase, Alhamdulillah, how is this a relatable or how convinced you are about that word and why? And does author's example help you in this case or what? Yes.
I think personally, not in terms of you, but like I remember a few fasts, like a few years ago when I was in Canada, those were like June and July. And those were some of the hardest fasts of that. And I feel like that like first sip of water was when I truly felt a sense of like I was extremely grateful for that sip of water. And I guess like the aim is to be that grateful for everything that we get in our daily life. But yeah, for some reason, it's only the extreme circumstances where you truly feel like grateful for these. Because alhamdulillah, like daily life we drink all our body gets water, but it's like yeah, it's very easy to take these things for granted.
Mhm. But why should you be thankful to the creator for water? Like water is coming from the tap. Hmm? Yeah, you should take this guy. He is working for the city's water department. Like, how do you make it so that next time when you say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen in the prayer, those meanings are starting to at least slightly start coming to you? Are you going to remember that fast from 15 years ago? Or like, how can we make it so that we really mean it when we say it? Yes.
The text itself is a little bit limited for the things that it evokes. Because I think that only because I've been coming here for years or a year, a little bit over a year, a lot of these things like remind me of other stories. For example, um, like this reminds me of my need, right? Of my need and all the ways that I'm sustained. And then it tells me like compare yourself with all the living creatures, like in creation, right? Like I'm needing, I see that I'm provided, I see that like there are so many things in my body that I cannot provide for. And therefore, like, and then we go through these like chains of thought that eventually go back to our creator. And if we only think about ourselves and then you think about all the things in creation, like there is one person um taking care of all these things at the same time at every moment. And that is praiseworthy. Like we when you say Alhamdulillah, you say that as a reaction to be given something. And once you realize that not only you are given, or so many of these little things in your body are sustained, and everything is sustained at the same time, I think that you really do see the greatness of the giver and sustainer, and that should make you say Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Yes.
I find it interesting. I mean, there are babies around us. The example that the author is giving is that of milk, kind of nutritious milk, and I ask myself, why is he giving this example rather than, let's say, water or oxygen or something like that? And I think nearly all babies, with the exception of maybe special circumstances, all given like milk is sent to them. Probably most of us have all benefited from that. And the milk that comes from a mother is such that it's also not static, right? It's constantly being changed to meet the changing needs of an infant. And so, it raises the question of, and here the author, he also says are intentional bestowals and bounties, almost prompting me to ask the question of, was this milk that I received as a child, as a baby, intentionally given? Was it not something that just happened to come because that's how the human body works? But is it intentionally given, intentionally delivered, intentionally changed constantly to meet my needs? And it almost, I feel like the milk that a mother gives their baby can allow the way in which my needs are being met in a constantly changing way throughout my life. So I just thought the example is worth reflecting over of why that specific example and how it can exemplify the way that my changing needs are also being constantly met as they were when I was an infant. Because I can approach, the verses all not the verse, but like Alhamdulillah, And so the question that one might initially have is that the case? Like, is all praise truly to God? Why? And so this example, I think, sort of initiates that thought process into having me ask the question of how am I being sustained from the moment, the very initial moments of my existence to now?
Jazakallah khairan. I think that was an important highlight, like highlighting the word intentional. Let's dig this a little bit further. Like, do we observe intentionality in milk? Because it's natural. It comes out of cow. It comes out of moms. Like, what is intentional? Because in the laboratory, we don't see intention. We just observe milk. Like, there were cells and now there is milk. There is no intention. We cannot measure intention in the lab, therefore it does not exist. So their sister Sarah is approving, right? There's no intention in the lab. So and she was already thinking about the atheist friends, and now she approves. Yes, this is what my friend would say. So where is intentionality in the milk? Where do you observe intentionality in the milk? Because if there's intentionality, then you would say, yes, definitely somebody must be intending for that. And since there is some value in there, I will praise the one who is intending it, who is giving it to me. But where's intention?
Given this example, where it was the placement of the milk and specifically as well, and how it comes from like how much is it being experimented with. Like you don't expect this sort of purely white liquid being nutritious and coming out from a region where you don't really expect it. So maybe that's what made you think that there's a reason behind the placement.
Yeah, and actually this example is directly from Quran. So like this is a Quranic example. The creator is explicitly saying that it's coming from between this dirt and blood. So this pure milk.
So sometimes, we see these toys or like different toys together set up in a very specific way. One part moves, which they move the another part, which moves the another part, which moves the another part. When you see such a system, you say that, okay, it is made by someone intentionally, right? Because in every part, you see how they fit to each other, how one part controls the other parts, etc. This is exactly what we see with the milk, for instance. The timing of the milk from a mom is so precise. Like before the birth, there's no milk. The moment baby needs the milk, it starts coming. Just at the moment. The content of the milk is also designed so carefully that the way baby, the way baby can suck, right, perfectly matches the content of the milk. So when they first born, for instance, they cannot suck like too much milk. It has to be too tiny and so dense. This is exactly what we see coming out. As baby starts acquiring, this is how they call, acquiring skills of sucking more, right? The milk becomes more liquid. The baby's need perfectly matches what is coming out of the mom. There are even some studies showing that when baby's body lacking something, lacking a mineral, for instance, okay, or some elements, the baby's body, not the mom's. Baby is already formed, and you can understand what baby is trying, how they, together, how the content of the milk is changing. But even babies outside, like let's say he is 1 year old, still sucking, she needs iron. For some reason, moms start generating more iron milk. Okay? The need perfectly matches what is sustained. So when you look at the meal, I mean, yes, the way it is given is very unexpected, but also the way it is sustained and designed, I mean, at least this is how we see it, it's so unexpected. This perfect matching in the system that we observe brings our mind the idea of intentionality. You say that it looks like there is a wheel somewhere. Maybe it is mom, observing the baby so carefully, even seeing the baby needs iron from her, I don't know, eyes or somewhere, and deciding, okay, maybe I could generate more milk with, the more iron. So maybe it is mom that the wheel, that we can attribute. But the wheel is definitely there.
Shall we get connected to the lab specialist? Would you like to speak on behalf of your friend? No? Okay. So, I guess anybody in their honest self, I would like to put it as such, because sometimes people really try to push the boundaries to come up with a alternative explanation, because I have been hearing my atheist friends counter arguments at this point, saying that, oh, somehow it ended up being as such, this is why baby is surviving, rather than saying that due to baby's need, milk is changing. It is the other way around. Milk is happening to be somehow as such. This is why baby keeps surviving. Like the change is happening, and that's why the mechanism as such, and the baby is surviving. Other than a logical contradiction in this that we mentioned before, which is right now, for this baby, it's also happening today. Like it's still in the mom, there's going to be this thingy, which is a new choice that's being made there. Milk could be this way or that way. Why is one choice better than the other? There is no reason for that. There's nothing that forces that to happen from a anyways, the technical name, but the issue is that the choice is being made in there, and both choices are equally likely, equally valid at the moment of choice. Milk having shape A or shape B. Milk being white or milk being black, let's put it this way, rather than more iron, less iron. There's no difference between the two from the point of view of choice, but one is being chosen today in the mom. And this baby is still in need of that. So it happening for as such for billions of years doesn't enforce milk to be as such today. So this idea of mechanistic worldview doesn't really help. But apart from that, the example that comes to my mind for such a thing is, it was, I believe it was in middle school. When I was in middle school, we had a 6th-year history book. I remember a picture of a needle. It was a needle made up of bone. And they were using this as an evidence of, they are carbon dating this needle, which is a simple piece of bone and a hole at the end. That's it. And they say, oh, this means, I don't know, 800,000 years ago, humanity was swimming. They did see an intentional hole at the end of a bone, and observing this intentionality, they read into it and say that this is a tool. This doesn't happen by itself, by chance, or anything of that sort. This definitely is an intervention of a creature which must be using this for a purpose. So sewing was there, people were having clothes and whatnot. This is a common sense, really. And this is how human brain works. And when it comes to anthropology, it works. So same logic, and I'm perfectly fine with that because it makes sense. So when it comes to milk, it's really coming in a funny way, if you like, unexpected, funny way, as if its maker is saying that, like, there is a feature put in here. You wouldn't expect this to come from here. Read into it. What does that mean? So, and at this moment, this is why author starts from that example and then says, this is something that you benefited from, right? Yes, I did. But then you can extrapolate it to whatever the ants are eating or drinking, or the bees are eating or drinking, because sustenance is such a common theme across the board for the whole creation. So whomever is sustaining me, providing me, is in a similar way sustaining and providing everybody. So this is why, to the extent that I am being provided, I praise the one that provides me. And then I say, oh, for all the praiseworthy things, he is the one that praiseworthy.
Is there anyone else?
I didn't see them.
So I want to go back to actually the word, the hamd, because it starts with the hamd, right? It doesn't start with the worship or choice, or it's just the hamd, the praise. And I really think it's really valuable that, like, you are opening Quran, the first ayah is, yes, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, but then the first thing you read is hamd. It's not Allah, it's not, the worship, it's not just a praise. And, when you read it carefully, like, you ask the question, what praise? Who's praising who? Like, am I praising someone? Where did this praise come from? And it says, Alhamd, like all the praises, as if, one avail of something. Like, when you talk about, I'm talking with, let's say, Yusuf, and I tell Yusuf, oh, Yusuf, the car belongs to this other gentleman. Assuming that he knows what I mean when I say car. Like, which car? Probably we talked about a red car other day, and I found out who belongs to this car. This car belongs to whom? And I said the car belongs to this gentleman. As if Quran expecting me, I know what praises it's talking about. Because no explanation whatsoever, just praises. Praises goes to Allah, and Allah is a proper name. I don't know what it means, right? It says it's starting from the praise. And I ask the question, what praise? When I read this text, I think it's doing a great job. Then you look at your life. Start from yourself, it says. Start from all the things that you find yourself being provided. Who's providing, where it is coming from, you don't know, but you know that it is given to you. You are hungry and you find some food. And it doesn't stop there. When you eat your food, you enjoy it. We usually take all this stuff for granted, we don't think about it. But when you start thinking, it is so surprising. Like, I'm hungry, I put some food in my, the stomach, my mouth, and these feelings start, they activated. I'm pleased. I enjoy it. It's so unnecessary when you think about it. Like, I pour some, water on this toy. Toy doesn't feel anything. But if you pour some water in my mouth, I feel something. I enjoy it. I start questioning, like, what is enjoy? Where does enjoy come from? My relationship with food is surprising. Right? And then I start counting, I see the same pattern everywhere. Right? I'm tired, I lay down, start sleeping, again, I enjoy it. If I hold my breath, for instance, I will feel terrible. And then when I start breathing, I start enjoying it. So the enjoyment, being, pleased with something, it's there everywhere in my life. When I start thinking, there's no end. I enjoy seeing, I enjoy hearing. I play with my child, I enjoy. All these things that I enjoy. And then what you says, the same way, think about all other things. How they enjoy everything about them. Right? And I realized, oh yeah, this praise is very central in my life. There's a praise coming out of me, and I don't know where it is going. Right? I ate the food today, for instance, there's a praise in me, saying that it is so delicious. To whom this praise goes? That's the question I ask, right? And I look at my host, I said, probably it's Yusuf made the food, right? I keep eating it, I said, no, this is delicious. It's not Yusuf, right? Probably Maryam. I start to continue eating, said, but Maryam doesn't know what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy, right? What my body needs, etc. So I cannot find to whom this praise goes. And when ayah says, Alhamdulillah, it's almost telling me that Birkan, you will find praise in your life and you will not know to whom this praise goes. You will not know. You will say something. And now I will explain it to you, the ayah almost said. With the following ayahs, I will tell you where this praise goes. So to me, when we say Alhamdulillah, the whole praise to Allah, it's not an explanation. It's just telling me you don't know where this praise goes. You see the praise in your life, but you don't know where it goes. Now I explain. And the rest of the ayahs, when it talks about the Rab, etc., they can't explain where this praise is going. But to me, the key word is the praise, because we forget about it.
So, we can pass the microphone to Sister Sarah. So I guess then the point is in here, now that we have babies again, a hungry baby crying, when they receive milk, you observe the comfort and happiness in them, and then they start sleeping. This is praising, like the fact that they are saying, oh, the milk was nice, I am content with it, and they start sleeping. This is a praise, actually. They are saying that, oh, whomever cooked the milk, gave it to my mom, thumbs up, it was nice. So that's a praise. Now extrapolate this praise to everything. You're sitting on a comfortable couch, and you are feeling nice. With the tongue of your disposition, you're praising someone. What? Oh, maybe you're just praising the couch itself, or it's a soft couch, but there's a praise. So this is why everywhere across the creation or universe, you observe praise. But as Brother Birkan said, to whom does this praise turn to? Allah. Who is Allah? We'll talk about that. Yes.
Yes. So interesting that we mentioned that the first question should be who the praise or who the hamd goes to. It's funny because today we had a short discussion about the Quran and when it was compiled and why it was compiled this way after the death of the Prophet. And that it wasn't compiled by the chronological order of the ayat how they were revealed, and that's Bab al-Nuzul, why they were revealed. And I think about it now, like the first ayat that were revealed were Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, khalaqa al-insana min 'alaq. So an ayah that is kind of like defining who my Lord is and who's the creator, and that I should look at the world and read it in the name of my creator. So I feel like like if I knew this ayah that like before, then I wouldn't be confused to whom that kind of goes to. You know, I'm just confused now why Alhamdulillah, of course, first ayah, but why Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen in the second, or like in the first ayah of the Quran, when in the beginning I actually need, as you said, need to know who the praise is going to, like who my Lord is. And there are a lot of ayahs in the Quran that tell me, oh, don't you see that we created this? Don't you see that we bring the rain like this? Do you think that you bring the rain? We like there are so many ayahs that are already telling me who my Lord is. I'm wondering why, like, if the answer is later in the Quran, why should I be confused in the beginning? You know, like why should I ask myself, like, why weren't these ayahs that define who Allah is and who my Creator is changed first? And then once I realize all of this, then it will be, oh, alhamdulillah, like that will be my conclusion based, of course, on my experience, but also on the readings of the Quran.
Jazakallah khair. So let's try to find the answer in the next phrase then. Like, is the next phrase including or containing the answer to that question? But I really like the way Brother Birkan put the emphasis on the praise itself. So, alhamdulillah, at this point now, the image is that everywhere do I observe in the creation that there's a constant praise that's coming from babies, from trees, from everything. Like everybody praises somebody or something. But whom do they praise? That's the question. And the next phrase is going to be Rabbil Alameen. So they're all praising the same one, actually. But that same one is going to be described. So the answer is actually not elsewhere in the Quran. Yes, in detail there is, but also in here, both the sort of a question, whom do they praise, is there, but also the answer, Rabbil Alameen, is there. But how do I come to there? Like, can I really, by looking at a baby praising the Creator and then father praising the Creator, do I see that actually both of them praising the same one? Can I see that? Because the answer is going to be there, right there as well. So let's read that, inshallah. Continue with the microphone. Whomever has the microphone can read, or
before we read it, can I say something? We are reading the next one, right?
Yes.
Okay, before going there. I think we can also read Alhamdulillah as, you know, the reverse writing of, we keep saying La ilaha illallah, right? We're talking about that. So I guess this phrase also almost like the opposite, the mirror image of La ilaha illallah. It also means the all praise for Allah, and we don't know what Allah is. It's almost saying the all praise, or none of the praise you see, goes to things that you know. It also means that. So the praise you have right now when you eat something and you enjoy, this praise does not go to the food. This ayah says it doesn't go to food. Lillah also means that. It doesn't mean, it doesn't go to food. It doesn't go to the food. It does not go to the evolution of something, whatever you hook up. The ayah says, no, it does not. You cannot show that the mom or cook or the food is praiseworthy. You cannot show that. It's the claim of the ayah.
So in this case, then, before we go to the next part, who can they be praising? They can be praising themselves. Like if we say milk is nice and tasty, we can say, oh, milk is good. So in this case, it's praising itself. Or we can say milk is praising mom because mom cooked it. Or milk is praising years of evolution. Milk is praising laws of nature. Like these are all candidates out there. But the next sentence is going to say, no, they praise no one but Rabbul Alameen.
Also another question. So we have been talking about stuff that sustains us, like, oh, milk, stuff that we like, and then it leads to praise. What about stuff that we do not like? Like, is there some sort of praise there that we don't see? Or
Like death, for example. So there's death. I don't like it. What is praiseworthy in death, and whom does death praise? Okay.
second praise, it's a sustainer of all the words. A very short allusion to the truth contained in this praise. We see with our eyes that within the universe are not thousands, but millions of words, small universes, mostly one within the other. Although the conditions for the administration and running of these are all different, they are organized, maintained, and administered so perfectly that like a single page held constantly in view, the universe is renewed and changed. And like a line, each of all those words is written by a pen of flower in the pen. Every instant of station, particular and universal, are written. Boundless, unending testimonies to the number of minute particles and the beings formed of them. To the necessary existence and unity of sustainer and follower, who administers these millions of words in the universes with an infinite knowledge, wisdom, and limitless, all-embracing mercy within an infinite dominicality. Not to affirm, perceive, understand, or see a dominicality, which raises and administers with the same law, the same dominicality, the same wisdom, all beings from the errable field of particles to the solar system and the Milky Way, and from the cells of the body to the storehouse of the earth, to the universe in its entirety. Certainly it makes a person deserving of endless thought and completes his worthiness to be good.
So how is it that whomever is praiseworthy in milk is the one who is the sustainer of the Milky Way as well? Milk and Milky Way. Okay. But because Rabbul Alameen is the sustainer, provider of everything. So the provider, sustainer, or the praiseworthy for the milk must be the one who is praiseworthy for the Milky Way. How is this the case? Do we observe the connection, the relationship between the two? Yes.
I mean, it's not a super great example, but I guess it helps with imagining something. Like electrons revolve around a nucleus, like like planets revolve around the sun, and how the Milky Way revolves around like the galaxy. So like just very in a very shallow manner, right? Like these things work the same way. So certainly they were designed by the same person or the same thing, right? So I think that this points to like all of these layers of creation and all the things we can point to and how they are governed by the same things. And so you can get to the conclusion that it's all one creation.
So it would have been one thing to say, oh, you have a comment? Okay.
I think we've discussed this before, too, on how, like, that's one way to look at it, the other way would be like, you go from cows eat grass grows with sun and photosynthesis, so like grass doesn't know how much sun it needs, but the sun provides perfectly what the grass needs. So like, if you see the wisdom behind all of that, like it's a necessary conclusion that you have to say whoever is growing this grass that leads to milk ultimately is also controlling the sun and the galaxy. I think that's an example that you probably use.
Yeah. So, like, one extra detail that author in here is mentioning is that it's in a constant change. Like, if we were focusing on a coherent piece of art, let it be a complicated picture, or let it be a coherent story that's written. Would you like to go upstairs? Go upstairs, go upstairs. Yes. So, even if it's a static object, such as a piece of art, but a complicated, so it's nothing is in the vacuum, you observe that whatever is in the one side of the picture is really connected to its environment, like its surroundings, but also the other end of the picture. That would require somebody intentionally putting it there, and you said whoever has drawn this side, this region of the picture, must be the one who drew that side of the picture because they are so coherently put together. But one step further, the picture is changing in real time, and the coherence is not being lost. Like, this is how the life is happening. It's not that it's a static thing, like a living being, a baby, or yourself. You're constantly in connection with, and you can take it from a cell in your body if you like. Like, it's a complicated, complex system working with another complex system in it. Like a cell in tip of a finger is working in harmony within itself as a cell, but then it is in the neighborhood of, I don't know how many, 20, 30, 50 different types of cells, and it has an interaction with them. But then they make an organ, initially an organism, then an organ, and then there are different organs. Now I have two fingers and they work together with each other. And there's this hands, the arm, like I do see that all these system gets more and more complex, but none of them are happening in the vacuum, and all of them are being constantly updated. So whomever is praiseworthy for the cell itself must be the one who is taking care of, because this is where the word Rab is really coming from, sustaining the neighboring cell, which is of a different type, has its own needs, but yet interacting with this other cell. So this harmonious togetherness, which is constantly being updated, is showing that whomever is doing one end of this creation, the milk, must be the one who is doing the other end of the creation, which is the Milky Way. I like the example. And then this is why the praiseworthy one for the milk is the one who must be the maintainer of the other end of the spectrum.
I have like the explanation, or maybe start from Sarah's question about and the explanation is going about the praise of Allah. And Surah Fateha is like the opening of the Quran. and the sentence starts with Alhamd instead of starting with Allah. The sentence basically explaining that in conclusion, the praise goes to Allah. But the explanation is going towards like we're doing deductive reasoning of, okay, look at this, therefore must be the praise belongs to him. You know what I'm trying to say or no?
Go ahead,
Like
continue.
the conclusion is given to us. Whether we arrive at that conclusion or not, or whether we believe in it or not, whether we see it or not, Allah is telling us that all praise belongs to him.
Mhm. So I think this is very what Brother Birkan was alluding to. Allah is the proper name, but who is Allah? Who are you going to call Allah? Allah could only be the one who is the sustainer of everything. Because then you can ask, is there one who is sustainer of everything? I thought I was being sustained by my boss, and Atik was being sustained by the mayor. Like there is no single one who is the sustainer of all. One can ask at this point. So, but the verse is making a very strong claim saying that all the praise could only be due to one who is the sustainer of everything. This is why it's a very strong statement. It's saying that praise could only be due to someone who can do everything. If you cannot do everything, if you cannot sustain everything, then you are not praiseworthy even for a single thing. It's not simply giving us an answer. It's making a very strong argument. Then I should pause and ask, is this really the case? Like if Atik cannot make the Milky Way, I cannot praise Atik for the milky tea. This is what it is saying actually. I think it's all about milk today. So if one cannot sustain everything, is not worthy for a single thing, single praise. Then at this point, I need to ask the question, is it really? And since this opening chapter, and this is why scholars have been saying Quran is summarized in Surah Fatiha. So this is why we keep opening it. Like, yes, Quran keeps explaining them in more detail later on, but this one is also, okay, just a second. So this one is also the answer. If we dig deeper, we will find the answer over here as well. Yes.
This is a very good question, very beautiful question. So when we look at the lives of prophets, we see something common, like they come and with the message they bring, they destroy something. Like there is a spectacle, the people are worshiping false idols. Prophets come and destroy the system. They say the false idols you are praying for, worshiping, are not worthy, so you should stop praising them. We don't see such a picture, for instance. The prophet comes, everybody are just living their life, they're neutral, they're not worshiping anyone. And the prophet comes out of nowhere saying that, you know what, Fahim? There is someone called Allah. We should all worship him because, you know, he's the creator of everything. And you say, where did this come from, man? I mean, I'm living my life. You don't see such a narration, you don't see such a picture in Prophet's life. So you can apply the same thing with Quran as well, the revelation. When revelation tells you, Alhamdulillah, it actually means faith. In your life, there are a lot of praises, and you are sending these praises to all these wrong places. You are worshiping false idols, and I will save you from that. I will show you that every praise in your life, none of them actually can belong to anything that you worship. That's the value of the Quran. Otherwise, if you take the Quran as teaching me, giving some information, like this is the answer, all praise is Allah, and you say that, okay, I heard about Allah, my father, told me that He's the creator, and Quran is just telling me that all praise goes to Allah. It's just an information. What is the utility of it? What are you going to do with this? But when Quran comes and tells you that you are worshiping wrong, the idols, and it's hurting you, and I will show you now that all these praises should go to someone who is the Rabb of everything in this creation. Only Him, whoever is controlling everything in this universe, can be only praiseworthy. And you say, what other false idols you talking? Why you are telling me that all praises should go to this one? And author explains, when you eat food, you are praising Yusuf because he cooked the food, and you stop there. When you earn your salary, you praise your boss or your education, and that's all. You start worshiping them. There are all these false idols, and this ayah is supposed to destroy them. How? That's the reason all this stuff. Otherwise, if you take it as just, this is the conclusion, you take it, memorize it, and do what with it? What is the utility? It should help you with your life. It should correct you.
And I guess to practically put it into action, and author also alludes to that in here, saying that to observing the same law, same dominicality, same wisdom in everywhere. In a sense, similar to if you know the style of an artist, and wherever you see, you say, oh, this is the brush strokes of such and such artist. You see different pictures, but from the style of how the brush is being used, you capture the pattern and you say that, oh, this is his style. So do I observe this same brush stroke across the universe to say that it cannot be anyone, whomever is painting, if you like, the Milky Way, cannot be anyone other than the one who paints the milk to white. It has to be the same. So Quran also exemplifies this in depth. The example that we talked about this before, one example that comes to my mind is this verse, actually, the one that's written here, and we should thank our artist for writing this over here. So, Inna Allah faliqul habbi wan nawa.
Inna
Allah faliqul habbi wan nawa. So, indeed, Allah is the splitter of the date palm and the grain. And then the next verse starts by saying, Faliqul Isbah. He is the splitter of the daybreak. Like the same word of splitting is being used in Quran. The first verse says, the one who splits. Okay, baby is lessened activity. Okay. So the first one is splitting the seed. Same verb is being used for splitting the day. Like the night is being split and the new day is coming out of it. So in this regard, Quran is inviting us to see the same brush stroke and say that whomever is splitting the seed must be the one with splitting the night and bringing the day. So this type of a perspective is what Quran is suggesting us, which is summarized in a single phrase when we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, meaning you cannot receive any praise if you cannot do everything in this universe. Whomever does everything can only be the one who does a single thing. A case example of this one is splitter of the seed, splitter of the day, meaning split the night, take day out of it, can only be the one who splits the seed, vice versa. So Quran is giving us this perspective. And in this regard, the very first verse of Surah Fatiha is being so comprehensive within a single phrase, highlighting that. Yes.
This is just a personal ethical. I think as I've learned more in my life, just in general, with any subject. I think even if you start as a lay person, there are these things, like you can see the splitting of the day, you can see the splitting of day and night. But I think even as you dive deeper and deeper into, if we're talking about cells, if you go further deep into the cell itself, there are so many mechanisms, and most of these scientific labs, like these PIs, they pick one molecule and they spend like 50, 60 years of their lives studying that. And they still cannot truly explain all the workings of it. Like they pick one aspect, that's all the papers they publish, and that's all the knowledge that they were able to get. And then like 20 years later, someone else comes in and says, oh, actually, we figured out this new thing about it. And I feel like as I've grown, like specifically in my workplace, I try to attend more seminars now because I cannot read papers myself. I get sleepy. But I see all these patterns that are at such a smaller scale too, like than what you see in your eyes or than what I was used to. That you go down to like truly at the essence of it, we just have base knowledge of how everything works, and we keep on discovering more and more, and then we keep on changing all these false idols that we develop and we start worshiping. It's very interesting that you can notice all these patterns even if you become a scientist. Like it doesn't have to be the other way around. Oh, you're a lay person, you believe in religion. No, if you try to see the pattern in these labs too, you'll see the same thing.
And in this regard, like it's very beautiful to see it under the microscope, but sometimes we get lost so much because we are isolating it from everything else and we feel like it works by itself. This is why the examples in here is seeing it in there and lifting our eyes or head from this microscope, looking to macrocosm and still seeing it there. Then we say, oh, this is not happening in isolation. This is because if it was happening in the vacuum, then somebody could then argue that, well, it happens by itself, by chance or something. But it's not happening in isolation. Like all of them are happening at the same time and they're interacting with each other. So this is why the praiseworthy one in here is the one who needs to receive the praise for everything in between. Like this is the trick that we get exposed to in the scientific atheism, trying to isolate things from each other and try to explain things within themselves. But this is, okay, yes, we try to isolate when we are trying to make an experiment, but it's not how existence is taking place. They're happening all at the same time. They're in a real-time interaction. And how does this take place? How does this order keep taking place? So it is the same brush stroke from one end to the other. So this is why, like this phrase, and Quran has similar different phrases as such. One of them is وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ as well, which has the same tone when it comes to power. Right now we are talking about it for the praise, but when you apply to power, that would mean if you cannot move galaxies, you cannot move a particle. Like whomever is moving a particle can only be the one who moves the galaxies, because again, it's happening at the same time. Right now, the example in here is for praise, whomever is maintaining or praiseworthy for a single tiny thing can only be the one who maintains everything, because they are all the same and single act. Yes. Any other comments? So we studied Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen today. Yes.
Just to, I think it even that, like, even if you get drawn into this isolation, I think it comes the more where you truly understand that you cannot isolate that, like, you cannot study all these things in isolation. I think that's what I've observed in my lab and like some of the work that I do. Like, they try to isolate it, but ultimately, like, it's somehow connected to another thing, and that's connected to another thing, but ultimately, like, keep on expanding. At least that's the part that's just.
And it's happening all at the same time. This is the mind-blowing part of it, right? It's happening all at the same time. Because what we are trying to do in our simulation is to simulate how a cloth is acting. And we are just trying to simulate it, but the problem is there are 50 different nodes that interact with each other. But since we are trying to simulate them sequentially, like they do not sequentially interact in the existence. They interact with each other at the same time. But I'm not able to calculate all of them at the same time. This is my limitation. So this is why my approximation, it's not being a real simulation. I'm just making a lot of assumptions here and there so that I can come up with what is happening right now without anybody touching anything with this cloth, just to simulate how this would behave. And we are not able to at this point. Like this is being the issue. Yeah.
You saw another example yet? Specifically with how people we're talking about how when we, let's say we carry two flows, you can't see the amount of liquid. So like just by shaking and hearing the sound, we're able to tell which one is heavy. And there were just some people talking about that. Like it's very hard to replicate that with an AI. Like you will have to use so much computation to figure it out based on time. But all of this is happening in a very simple manner. Like again, that ultimately relates back to the same topic.
Can I too? Sure. So I'm kind of engaged in a kind of a theological discussion over that. But there are 2 points that I'd like to add in terms of sociology of this writing. First, you were mentioning patterns and styles, but he intentionally uses the term law, right? You use the term law. There's kind of a difference because the scientific understanding, I believe, Imam Mursi was referring to is the term, some sort of scientific understanding where everything has a very clear-cut scientific regularity. And it is not simply a pattern, it's not probabilistic, but a bit different from just simply saying training an AI model. It is actually something that is very clear-cut with perfection. Right? I think there's a kind of a difference. The reason that I'm bringing it is that I think what makes Imam Mursi kind of different from his contemporaries, let me put it that way, is he brings all these scientific references here and there, like the milk reference early on. It's actually, this is the time where there's a real explanation for how milk comes out of the human body came out, and he just incorporated it to make the point for the first kingdom. The reason that I'm bringing up is that he may not mean the same thing that as you are alluding to here, because we are essentially bringing something with our current knowledge. It's kind of ironic because this chapter is published somewhere late 40s, and this is the same time that quantum theory began to came out, and actually all probabilistic explanations, the foundations of the probabilistic explanations are laid out. but I don't necessarily believe that he really refers to that, simply because it's just
Refers to what? Sorry, I missed that.
his reasoning is much more certain than what we are discussing so far. So our discussions are more in probabilistic understanding of universe, right? But his reasoning was much more certain and much more deterministic, because he used the term law. And he, as far as I know, there's Ali Kulia, he refers to this clear-cut patterns a lot. I just want to add this little endnote, that like, yeah, big questions and discussions.
Maybe, I would say maybe. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So, but the way, at least the way we understand it, let's assume Imam Mursi lived and died. So does it apply and consistent in terms of our understanding? Like, does it work? Let's take it from there, because like to think about whether what he meant and whatnot is a little, I guess we can discuss this separately, agreed. But like in terms of how we observe, like let's either you take it as a price pattern, like pattern of price stroke, or if we take today, as you mentioned, a law as a like probabilistic patterns, or going with, I don't know, 2000 years of what's a Platonic way of seeing it as, oh, this is a law, like this is how it is. But what is common in all is there is an ongoing act, and this act is consistently appearing in this way. But the same act, because Imam Nursi gives the example of how wind is blowing and sweeping the dust, and how a bird is cleaning its wing, and how your eyelids are cleaning your eyes. So he says it is the same act of cleansing. One is at the bird, the other one is on the surface of the earth with the wind, the other one is on your eyes, but it is the same act, just like the splitting of the grain versus splitting of the day. So, and they are happening in the same universe, interacting with each other. So whomever is doing one must be the one who is doing the other. So I guess in this regard, however we interpret, agreed, this is a valid point, Jazakallah khair. But however we take it, still the point is that it is the same act that is happening because it is interacted. If those actions were independently happening and do not touch each other, then I would say, oh, my eyelids are cleaning my eyes, and it has nothing to do with whomever is cleaning the wing of a bird, and it has nothing to do with the wind that is sweeping the surface of the earth. But no, since all of these are happening in the same, they're sharing the same volume, they're happening together, they're interacting with each other and happening at the same time, whomever is doing one must be doing all. If you cannot do all, you cannot do one. If you cannot do all, you cannot claim share in one either. This is such a strong way of pointing to Tawheed. Okay. Any concluding remarks? I think we can pause here. So, inshallah, today we covered Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So may Allah increase our juice in Surah Fatiha. No, the juice, the one that's drink. The content, the depth of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen in our Fatiha, inshallah. And next week we will continue with Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة.